It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
Okay, so I don't know if you're just like me, but I happen to live, work, and play all in the same house every day. And I'm super excited to be sitting across from Karissa Shamanichak with Pleiadian Home. And she's going to be talking today about some real actionable things to make our homes way more friendly to that live, work, play lifestyle. But first, our land acknowledgement.
In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge that we live, work, and play on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Ga'aina, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, the Eahe Nakota Nations, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta.
All right, welcome to the show, Karissa.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, so for those of you who are in the Audible audience, do go over to the YouTube and check out Chris's hair. Best head of hair in Calgary and in the midst of a water restriction. I'm a little jealous here. I have a little bit of hair envy going on. I am excited today to dive into this because what you do is really resonates because I did 1,500 home sales in Calgary or transactions in real estate. And I'm avid believer in creating the space. I'm certified as a home stager specifically for my clients. I am not for hire people. It's a lot of work. But I'm dying to dive into this because I think right now, creating the space, especially for those who are working from home and you are live, work, and play all in one space. And as our space gets more expensive, and maybe the square footage is getting smaller. So this is going to be a great podcast to listen to today. First, I want you to outline who is Karissa, because you've had a lot of years in this space, but I want to get a little bit of why you went. What's the backstory?
Okay, so it actually started in grade 3, believe it or not. So in grade 3, I wanted to be an interior designer. I had put it out on like a little vision board that I had done in school. And it wasn't until in my early to mid 20s, my mom and I were going through all those things mom holds onto over years from education. And we came across this little page where it was like, this is in fact what I want to do when I grow up. At the time, I definitely thought that it would be so much easier and I would have endless amount of cash for shoes and clothes. I was like, okay, I get to pick colors and then I get to buy the clothes that I want, kind of thing. Like in my head, that's what I was thinking. And then fast forward through high school and I started to kind of set up the business and organize the way I wanted it to feel. And then left high school, opened up the decor aspect of it, and took MRU at the time, had a type of course where you could do part of it through correspondence and then the other part you would wrap up here at MRU. And so I finished there and then I started contract work. So I had my business, I kept it open, and I started contracting out to other design firms and doing some decor pieces through them as well. And that really gave me an understanding for Calgary and a love for it, because I was born and raised in Fort McMurray, where at the time there wasn't a lot of creative outlet, or the type of clientele wanted all the same thing, because we were always in such a transient state, right? People wanted to, if they had to, sell their home overnight and leave. So they wanted it to feel like almost sterile to some extent. And I'm not talking white walls and everything. Yes,
Needs
very builder grade.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there wasn't a lot of area for me to expand my creativity. Luckily, my parents were the type of people that even in my teens, they would allow me to renovate the home or redecorate it. Like we were changing out tiles early on and I was like, yes, that's what we're going with. We're changing these lights to this. And they were like, okay, they always trusted me. It was amazing. And I have to say both my parents are very creative. So they could see the vision, which was lovely. And then, I moved to Calgary, had a really good understanding of what luxury interior design looked like from these other firms that I was working with. And then always did contract work till about 5 years ago, where I was like, you know what, I'm going to fully just go out on my own. Instead of some contract work, some of my own, I just wanted to step into the arena of creating spaces just under my umbrella. So then I had to sit with, what does that really look like? And what type of experience do I want people to feel or have when they're working with me? Because ultimately, I think when you're hiring someone to create your space, it's such a vulnerable experience to begin with. And it requires a level of knowledge and almost like a best friend connection in a way. That person really needs to understand you, right? They need to understand how you want to live, how you want to be seen in your space. The
why behind the design.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because sometimes people will see something online or in a magazine, oh, I want that. And yet they'll say they want that, but they have 4 boys under the age of 10. And you're going, well, that material may not be the best fit. However, I think we can achieve a similar look with this over here. Is that kind of where you guide people? Like making sure that they're investing not only emotionally, but also in the space that will endure.
Yes. Yeah. Longevity is very important. So we do have the conversation of how do you want to use a space and how long do you want to use a space for? And then from there, it's really about understanding essentially their unique energetic signature. So this is kind of where I think what I do is just a little bit different, is I tap into your energy and I have a good understanding of how you want to be seen and represented in your home. So the idea is a stranger comes in and they should be able to already understand you and have an appreciation for who you are and your values before really getting to know you, instead of creating a home that looks like it's from Pinterest or House or Instagram. This is a space that is truly reflective of who you are.
Absolutely. Oh, I'd be curious what you think. Mine's all secondhand. I'm telling you, I am. The only thing that's new in my house is like my mattresses and my dishes. Mm-hmm. Everything else I source or refinish and I've got like all cozy colors. Like I'm the type of place that people will come in and they're comfortable putting their feet up on the coffee table because that's what, I mean, I dug out. Okay, folks, I will take a picture. Jackson, remind me, we have to take a picture of this. I had a client years ago that was pitching a 1980s Cougar coffee table. So it was the Cougar with the glass top.
Oh my God, amazing!
I have that in my living room.
That's a gem.
And I actually went and got matching paint, but with pearlized finish. And so she's got, and I even put rhinestones on her eyes. And everybody that walks in
have to post this.
Yeah. Everybody and they do this, they always startle because it looks like her eyes are tracking you now when you walk in the front door. It's hilarious. But that's me. I'm like, anything can go in my house as long as I like it.
Absolutely.
I don't care, right?
And then even in that's your style, right? And there's ways that people, they know what they like, but they don't know how to pull it together. Sounds like you know how to pull it together.
I can do it. I'm the gal who, if we had to turn a house around fast, paint.
Yes.
Okay, why do people always underestimate the power of paint?
I don't understand that. I do think it is so powerful. It absolutely changes the mood, the look of the space, and you can take some spaces from grunge to nice and clean and ready to sell within hours. Absolutely.
Within hours. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. I mean, and yes, how many shades of white are there?
Oh my gosh. Endless. You can even create your own. Everyone's like, okay, I want like a trending white. I'm like, which one?
Right now in your business. So Pleiadian with an N on the end, Pleiadian Home. Let's first tell us what Pleiadian means, because I hear this and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
So walk me through. What is Pleiadian? You said it's 13 years old now. So tell us what it means and what right now is getting you excited in the space.
Okay. So Pleiadian Home represents coming home, but really it's a star constellation of 7 stars, and that's exactly what it means, is coming home. So it came to me in an interesting way. I was meditating. I was currently rebranding and I was having a hard time coming up with a name, and I was meditating and these 7 dots kind of came into my line of sight. Well, my mind's eye, I'll call it. And when I came out of meditation, I just wrote out the little dots. From there, my business coach, a few days later, She was like, have you ever heard of the Pleiades? And I was like, no, what is that? And she's like, just Google it. And I was like, okay. So after our call, I Googled it and the seven stars came up. And I looked at my little Post-it note and I was like, it's exactly what I drew. And I'm like, that's so freaky. Like the coincidence, right? Like that is not a coincidence. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to let this sit. I need 3 hits every time for something to be a firm yes or meant to be for me, right? So I kind of put it out to the universe. I was like, I need a 3rd sign. This was during COVID. And it was just when we were allowed to get our haircuts again. So I went to a brand new hairdresser because that's all that was available. And she's like, I don't usually do this or say this, but she was like, are you familiar with Pleiadian energy? And I was like, not really. She's like, you have a lot of it around you. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, this is wild now at this point, as if the universe is yelling at me. This is supposed to be the name for the company. And so then went home, did some more Googling. That's where I found out that it meant coming home. And I was like, it couldn't be more perfect. Because it is creating a space for you to ultimately come home to yourself, right? When you see things around you that make you feel good, feel comfortable, you're able to work through some emotional and mental things that if you have a very busy and messy space, or even a space that doesn't represent you, could detract you from actually having those breakthrough moments or being able to live a more abundant and successful life.
Messy that is definitely something that I personally am ADHD. The rest of my house, you can walk in. It's usually pretty good. But you always know when I'm in that high energy space of my personality, like I'm cranking out 10, 12 hours a day at my computer because every other aspect in my personal space becomes crazy, right? What's got, and I'm going to come back around to organization because I want to tap into that. But I want to know what's got you sparked right now. What in the design world is like, oh, I want to do that. That's so cool. Because we all know there's something that comes to us, a new texture, a new color, a new, piece of furniture because we got all the stuff that's starting to morph on us. Like we can make new spaces and like with all the new technologies out there, what's got you excited right now?
A lot of people are starting to see the value in custom furniture. And that is getting me so jazzed. So early on when I was working with some boutique designers, they only did custom furniture. And I got to see how that craft really could be applied to beautiful spaces where you have the most unique fabrics and design that really speaks to the space. So again, that's kind of having a resurgence. And so I'm feeling very excited about my opportunity and ability to start tapping in and designing these new pieces. Like you said, with some of the technology that we have nowadays, 3D printing, unreal, very interesting side tables that could be made from that, or light fixtures or decor pieces. It's endless now. The possibilities are truly endless.
And I've been watching, there's a Instagram feed that I follow. It is and I'll get the exact name of it, but it is a designer, I believe, out of New York, that they're dealing with very tight spaces. So you can watch the digital twin of how they recreate these like 9x9 rooms to accommodate the bed and the cabinetry and the desk. And I'm just so fascinated to watch how they build these spaces, because I think designers have that bit of that art with the new technologies, also have a bit of that architectural opportunity to them, right? You're no longer set with just the 4 walls. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And the ability to create multiple different spaces in one space, especially for the smaller spaces that we will likely start to see in Canada as well, just with our population growing, that is so empowering, because people actually feel like they can come home to a full space versus they're living in their kitchen, their dining room, and their office and their bedroom all at the same time. So having that delineation, even just, popping the bed on stilts, let's say, game changer.
Absolutely. And with generational homes. So I think we're going to start seeing more generational homes in Canada. So we'll see, grandma and grandpa and the parents and the children, and then the children can even, and we're starting to see some different design aspects of how we can blend all this together. I would love to know, there's the design side, which seems to be that it totally speaks to you. But let's talk the business side. That's, setting up your QuickBooks and your CRMs and all of the things that are not as fun for a creative typically. What was your biggest challenges you faced in setting up a true, from the foundation up business? Not just the design side, but the true business all the way through so you can have longevity to it.
Yeah, the accounting and bookkeeping for me. So I'm sure, as you know, you have to wear so many hats when you own your own business, right? Like you're the social media person, you're the accountant, you're the bookkeeper, you're the person organizing the schedule, you're in it, right? So I would say for me, the biggest thing was accounting and bookkeeping. And so once I had a better handle on that, I then started to outsource it because I realized it wasn't my genius zone. And I knew that if I was able to find someone who fit within ways in which I see my business growing and are also able to essentially be a cheerleader in that space while giving me solid information on how I can continue to scale and how I'm able to make my money work for me, was going to be a game changer. So at some point I decided that in order to make this business work for me, I needed to start hiring people like that. Because as a creative, like you said, that's not my strong suit. It's not something I love doing at all. And instead it would stress me out and then it would take my energy. So as soon as I notice that I'm offloading energy or I'm leaking energy in any space, I'm like, okay, how can I outsource this? Is it really fulfilling for me to stay in it? And is there someone else that will benefit from essentially my abundance that I'm able to give forward, right? Like I work for money. Obviously, that's an energetic exchange for money, and somebody else is going to do an energetic exchange for money, which would be like my bookkeeper or accountant, in which that would help them grow as well. So there was a point in the business where it was like, okay, I can either continue to do this myself and it's going to deplete me, or I'm able to outsource it and it's going to also help somebody else out, grow their company too, right?
Yeah.
So it was this aha moment, I guess, where I was like, I don't have to do it all, and that's okay.
And I think that sometimes we get challenged around the financial outlay for things that we feel that we should be doing, but that when you come to that realization, it's kind of, what do you feel that your energy, when you identified the piece of your business that you needed to outsource to somebody else or hire somebody in, where did your energy go? Like, what were you able to create, or how much more productive did you become?
That it felt like a breath of fresh air, because I didn't realize how much mental space it took from me. So as soon as I was able to find someone who fit that and we connected really well, it was like the doors opened up. And then suddenly I was also just gaining more clients. I wasn't doing anything different, but it was almost like it was like the open sign was on my business all of a sudden. For a while it was probably flickering and maybe dim because I was so overwhelmed. And then now it's like, I'm accessible again.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a hard question because you've made everything way too easy so far. So our homes, our spaces are live, work, play. We've seen this huge shift since the pandemic. I know I work from home. I have one of my bedrooms upstairs, and the first thing I did is I went in and I wallpapered a wall and I set it up. So people always go, "Oh, that's a nice background you have," because I do so many interviews a week. Let's start with live. What is one strategy or tactic or a design or something we can implement to make our spaces more livable?
Get rid of anything that does not resonate with you anymore, or that's just taking up space for the sake of taking up space. Even if you feel tied to it on some emotional level, sit with it and see if that emotional level is out of guilt of getting rid of the item, or if it's actually because you're emotionally tied and connected to it. Getting rid of junk and stuff that we don't need, that's the biggest tip, I would say. Like if you're not looking to do a big renovation or a big overhaul in your decor and you're just wanting to live in a space that allows you to feel a little more free in, get rid of the things that are holding you down.
That's a great. And that's hard for a lot of people, especially those who have come through the booms and the busts, and maybe people who have had full resets after 2008 or during the pandemic, because I think there is a fear in letting things go. Because if I let this go, what if I'm never able to replace not necessarily it, but the function of it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. But then that fear is what kind of keeps us trapped. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Okay. Work. What is one strategy or one item? What we're in the same four walls we were in pre-pandemic. How can we work better from our space?
So either have a door that you can close, the office space on, or if you cannot close a door on it and really keep it in its own container, try and find ways in which to organize the office space that is also a lived space. Because you will never be able to actually disconnect from work or be in a space where you're not constantly thinking about it if you're always seeing it. So find a way to either organize it or just simply close a door on it. So like you're talking about having that office in your second bedroom, that's perfect. Even if, let's say, the room feels like a nightmare, just being able to close that door and walk away from it, you're closing the door on work time and you're being able to disconnect, right?
And if somebody's in, let's say, a one-bedroom condo, so we have a young professional one-bedroom condo, what is some kind of ideas that you've seen out there that you thought were really kind of good, cost-effective and space-effective ideas of closing off that work?
So recently I had a client in this exact situation. And so we had a coffee table that opened up and propped up almost as a desk. So when they were sitting on their sofa, they were still able to use it as a desk. And then it had storage inside. So you simply take your laptop, any work, you put it inside and then close down that desk. And then it turns into your home again. So just finding ways and spaces to shut it down.
Oh, I've seen those coffee tables. The ones that come up. Though that goes back to the new. We're starting to see more furniture, that custom furniture. We're starting to see the pieces evolve more into the custom what we need, right? And I think you can even get hinges.
Yes.
That do that.
Yeah, you could DIY it. Absolutely.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. That didn't even register with me, because then if you're doing calls, typically we'll have a little bit of space and some nice artwork behind us. So now we actually have a good space to do any of our remote conferences and such. That's brilliant. Absolutely. That is brilliant. So live, work, play. So let's look at play. How do we make our spaces playful? How do we make them rejuvenate us and get us ready for the next day of working, the next day of living?
I think sometimes we don't put enough merit on color. So I think color can be a really fun and playful way. And I'm not saying it has to be crazy. I'm just saying sometimes color, even simply a plant, can really help bring color to a space and help you feel a sense of calm, a sense of connection, a sense of levity that maybe you aren't connecting to in just like the gray walls or white walls of your space or office. I think having things that really speak to you, like artwork that is really fun and what you deem as fun, not what the world deems as fun. It truly has to resonate with you. Just like your coffee table, that's such a fun piece. And I would imagine every time you come in, you're like, yes, I love it.
Oh, I've had some people look and go, okay.
And whatever, right? Whatever.
And the couch it's coupled with, I got at in Chaparral. It was ginseng company.
Oh.
With the rolled arms,
Ooh.
olive green,
Ooh.
velvet on velvet.
Oh, lady, you are speaking
but
my
I got
language.
it for like $500. And if one of the deep seats, you walk in, and I've got the cougar with this big olive green. It looks like you should be like Chase Lounge.
Yeah,
on it.
someone's feeding you grapes.
So when my kids come over, they always tell their friends, that's mom's room.
Yeah.
That's mom's room. I also have like a 1960s old stereo in there that still works. So we have our,
cool.
I've got the weird, like I'm one of these people, I've got anything and everything, but everything has to make me feel like I feel safe and I feel warm. Canada can be very cold and I just don't understand. I don't personally understand like white on white on white on white in Calgary because it's cold, but I do have white cupboards because it's bright. Okay, so I love this. I love this because I'm getting so much insight as to just working with you, like what you bring. So really understanding that live, work, play, adaptive use of a space is so important. In building and how you offset things that would take the energy away from your client's space. What is the advice? Because you are still considered a young professional, even though you've been doing this for 13 years and you knew 20 some years ago that you were going to do this. But what is the advice that you would give? We're seeing a lot of young professionals that struggle because they were told, go to university, get this, there's this job. And maybe they didn't have the same support you had. And now they're sitting here and we know that there is nothing but this incredible entrepreneur or business person inside them, and they're working to find their way through. What would be kind of some of the ideas and advice, maybe environments that you would suggest that they need to be in or experience or explore?
I think if you have a ningle to do something and that you truly feel like it's going to be better than the current situation you're in, even if you can't see how you would take all the steps to get to that goal, trust that ningle. Just go forward with it. The breadcrumbs will fall. You'll pick them up. You'll learn what to do, how you need to pivot possibly if it's not quite exactly the way that you thought it would be at the beginning. But just trust the fact that you are being led in a direction to expand yourself in a way in which you can't currently perceive. I think it's really just the trust. And I know how airy-fairy that sounds, but I must say that when I trust my gut and I just allow myself to be in flow, the level of clients, the level of connection, the level of expansion that I receive is astronomical versus when I'm in a space of trying to control the outcome or figure out my way through things. Like, of course, there's a mental component to being an entrepreneur, but ultimately it's like, continue to trust your gut. It's so powerful, and you will connect with the right people. For example, the Petroleum Club. This has been such a beautiful opportunity for connection in ways in which I didn't see or perceive when I first started my business, let alone even 5 years ago. And now the connections that I'm making and the ability to have more expansive conversation with people that are senior to my business is amazing. It has helped me grow so much, even just to see a potential that maybe I didn't see. Another great place is Creative Mornings. So if people are more on the creative side, Creative Mornings is also a networking group that helps with young entrepreneurs to get them on their feet and to connect with people that could be more of a mentor type thing. So there's a lot of wonderful resources in this city. The city truly feels like a city for entrepreneurs, and just trust your gut. Just go with it. If you want to do something different than what you're doing currently, do it. Do it. You will not be wasting your time. Absolutely not.
Just do it. It works in so many ways.
Nike, right?
Oh my God, you are such a breath of fresh air. And if you are anything as a reflection of where our city is going, we are so fortunate. We are so fortunate. Calgary is, I've been saying this on every show, and I believe this all the way to my absolute core. I believe we are on the cusp of greatness. We have so many amazing things going on here, and especially having incredible young entrepreneurs like yourself to lead the march with creativity and coming in and networking and getting us all talking. How can we do this bigger and better and more accessible and more livable and fun? Bring fun back into it. I think we spent enough decades with the grind. I think it's time for some fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Krissa.
Thank you, Kim. This was amazing.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com, CALPETECLUB.com, to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.